Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Well, welcome back to America's Heroes Group, this time with our roundtable partner, the Veterans Legislative Voice, and our ASG correspondent. Today is Saturday, September 23rd, 2023. September is National Suicide Prevention and Hispanic Heritage Month. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scotch Arnold Productions. And we have our partner with us again. That is Stephanie Kalota. He's our U.S. AHG correspondent, and she's a U.S. Army Reserve Sergeant First Class when she served. Now she's a veteran, founder, and creator of the Veterans Legislative Voice. How you doing today?
Doing good. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. So we have 5 Republicans joined the Democrats to tank a GOP defense bill. Tell us about this.
Okay, so pretty much let's just give this a little bit of a premise for everyone. Every year, the Congress has to pass at least 12 appropriation bills to keep the government running. The most famous one is the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA. I've talked about this at length before, these type of bills, and they need to pass it before October 1st every fiscal year. So we're getting really close to that, and the House and the Senate has created their own NDAA bills and have been passing them from chamber to chamber. The House bill that they've created and sent to the Senate actually had put amendments in and then sent it back to the House for approval. What happened recently with these 5 Republicans was that the House needed to bring to a vote just to debate about the bill, to talk about it, not even to vote for the passage of the bill. And 5 Republicans joined the Democrats to vote against it.
So that was okay. Go ahead.
The surprising part are a couple of those people that have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Most notably is Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she's such a supporter for Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker, that it's kind of surprising that she joined against him. And the others weren't so surprising. They were others, Andy Biggs, Matt Rosendale, the obvious people from the Freedom Caucus that are typically in fights with Kevin McCarthy.
So what were they afraid of that would come out in the debate? So they voted to not debate the defense budget bill. So that gives me the idea that everybody's, for the most part, okay with the defense budget as it is for next year. Am I reading something wrong?
One of the things is that the House bill had a lot of things that the extreme right from the Freedom Caucus wanted in.
Okay.
But then when it was with the Senate removed all of those, like 99% of those. And for example, it was the abortion, it was a little amendment in there to actually prevent the current DOD's compensation for travel for reproductive care.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the things we talked about at length, in a couple of shows, our previous shows.
Yes.
So that was one of the. So that was possibly an attempt to try to reintroduce what the Freedom Caucus. Or is that their name? The Freedom Caucus, or what do they call it?
Yes. Yeah. It's basically what they're doing is taking a stand to what the Senate did, which is controlled by the Democrats. So of course, bills like, the restrictions to reproductive care in the military is going to be something that they're going to want, and they're going to fight against the Democrats with. So they are basically taking a stand over all of the changes that the Senate did.
Now, does this make Republican Senator McCarthy look weak as a leader?
Representative McCarthy, it does. It makes him a whole lot weaker so that he can't control. It seems like he can't even control his own political party. In comparison, sorry if you can hear the dogs. In comparison, Senator Pelosi, I'm doing it now. Speaker Pelosi from the House before, when she was Speaker, she 99% of the times when she brought things to a vote, she knew that the vote was going to pass. Like very, very rarely does she even see a bill not pass because she knew for sure it wasn't going to have a problem. So it's showing McCarthy is so much weaker because he can't even control his own party.
Yeah, I was thinking about a different McCarthy. But the thing of it is that it's interesting is that the GOP or the defense bill that's on the table right now looks like it's going to pass. Do you have an idea about what is in this bill currently as far as budget for Ukraine and things like that for the military?
Well, actually, That's a good question about Ukraine, because I can't remember if the funding for Ukraine was put back in, because I remember originally in that House bill did not have anything with Ukraine. And actually, it has modification for partnership program with Ukraine, specifically for here military trauma care and research. I'm looking right now as I can right now in real time to see if there's any more funding added, but I know that the Republicans and some portions of the GOP is against adding more funding to Ukraine. So that could be part of the conversation that's happening.
So is this also a sign, or maybe a hopeful sign, that maybe at some point in the future there'll be more cooperation between Republicans and Democrats, since 5 Republicans joined the Democrats to try to tank this debate?
Honestly, no. The Democrats will vote against the Republican bill largely so that they don't win. And the Republicans do the same thing. Democrats do the same thing on each side of the aisle. This one was just a really strange coincidence that they tend to vote with Democrats. And honestly, I don't think that's going to happen much. I was hoping it was going to happen when we had the 15 tries just to get McCarthy to become the speaker. I was hoping for somebody to start voting for Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrats' pick for the minority leader, so that for once we would actually get a minority speaker, because technically it's not against the rules for somebody from the minority political party to become the Speaker of the House. It just ends up having to be the majority because they have the votes.
Now the Republican. Okay, go ahead.
I do not see any of the Republicans, at least on the extreme right, actually joining in with the Democrats on any of their actual platforms.
So more gridlock. Now, does that pose a risk for a government shutdown in the future?
Yes, it really does. One of the things that actually played against McCarthy's power is that when the House finally came together and voted him in, they voted for certain rules. Last congressional session happened during the COVID pandemic. So they actually brought in for the first time proxy voting, which means that representatives and senators can vote by proxy instead of physically having to be there. And Republicans who are even against, voting by mail for regular citizens, they're not going to support proxy voting. Well, a few Republicans were actually sick or out because of medical issues, and they couldn't vote by proxy. It might have actually played more into McCarthy's favor if he didn't take that rule out.
Now, how is Mitch McConnell doing? He's the minority whip for the Republicans. Now, what is going on in his situation? People were concerned about his health. Is there any news about that you heard?
Not so much, but I have seen a decent amount of speaking engagements that he's had since the second freezing, and he seems okay. So I'm not going to make any theories out there, mostly because myself with my own medical issues, you can't see it happening. So I've had people make negative remarks about me, so I'm not going to do that against McConnell. I'll be very nice about that. But the thing is that President Biden has actually came in support for McConnell for the health issues, which, you don't see that very often with being bipartisan. He said that, sometimes McConnell will have, that moment, you freeze or you think and you're in your own little trance. He says that happens with McConnell on occasion, and it's, no real big deal. It just happens to happen when he was actually speaking in front of cameras. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think all of us at AHG, we always have the attitude that we always want to see our leaders healthy and successful, and have real debates about issues, and we never want to wish anybody ill will or anybody to be harmed or go through any kind of physical ailment. So hopefully he's in good spirits, and hopefully he's healthy. But at the same time, we want him to do a good job of leading the country and hopefully cooperating with the other parties, Democrats and independents, to try and solve problems and not create problems.
Yes, and he was actually diagnosed with a TBI when he had his fall and hurt his hip. So, those type of things, freezing for TBIs, because I have one myself, freezing with times when you're lost in a thought can happen, even more likely with a TBI. So, I'll just leave it as proven things that he actually has for his medical issues.
Now, what are some sticking points that you might see coming down the road with getting a budget finally approved, where we don't have we have to worry about any possible government shutdowns? Make sure everything is funded. We're not just kicking the can down the road. What do we need to get over or agree on?
Now that there's a bunch of things, because the extreme right, they do have much more power than they rarely do, because everything is so split. One of the things that they're really fighting about really is a lot of spending cuts. Because they were really upset with all of the increased spending, or at least the increased things passed in the past for funding. And so they want to cut a lot of that. And that's one of the things that I'm really worried about in the future. One of the things that has been rising up with the House as well, and Glenda and I have spoken about this before, the House is threatening to subpoena the VA in order to get more data about the abortions that they are now performing. Since the recension of Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision, the VA had changed their policy of not doing any abortions to only doing the abortions whenever it is from rape, incest, or the health and welfare of the mother. Excuse me. And the VA has given 2 reports to the House about how they're doing, what's going on. But the thing is that the House wants more information. But the thing is that there's an argument between the VA and the House Veterans Affairs Committee. What the Veterans Affairs Committee is asking for is basically the specific conditions and the reasons why they chose to recommend and perform the abortions based off of the women's health. Mm. And the worry about that is privacy, because it can be against HIPAA from knowing. The VA has only performed 54 abortions as of April of this year. So as of April, back all the way to August of the previous year, of that time frame, they've only performed 54. 44 were because of the health of the mother.
That'll be an interesting debate to see what they decide as far as HIPAA rules when it pertains to military people, military workers, because if you're in the military, technically you're a government issue. Yeah. So, yeah, your property. Sam. Right. So that'll be very interesting to see, and that could have far-reaching implications if they actually are able to get those records.
Well, because they're veterans and they're private citizens now, it's a little bit different. But the thing is that the military has gotten in trouble before for accidentally releasing military personnel records. If you remember, there was a lady running as a representative, and Air Force had actually released her personnel files to the opposition, and they basically found that she was a victim of military sexual trauma, and that got out. So they're probably going to be acting a lot more stringent now on rules, especially for HIPAA.
And we know who that is. She's going to be on our show later today, actually. But so the thing of it is I think it's so disconcerting is that we still are not working together to solve problems. It seems like more political tit for tat and more of a chess play than actually trying to solve anything.
Yeah, it feels like we're governing from crisis to crisis. I found a quote a little while back about that, is that President Obama said after the 2013 government shutdowns, he says, we need to get away out of the habit of governing through crises, and it feels like we never broke that habit.
So what are some of the other things that are happening in Congress right now that we need to know about?
Oh, well, other than the government shutdown. Well, one of the things that we've been watching right now is things that have been rolling down the road with Merrick Garland, and questions around that's going around with the Justice Department, which can get a little bit scary. I worry about how the Justice Department is being involved, because you know what? They help out with all the other agencies as well. If they're going to be so consumed with everything that's been going on now and everything in Congress, it can cause a lot of issues from there. So that's where I'm getting a little bit concerned. It doesn't hit military and veterans directly, but you know what? It doesn't help with their workload.
Wow, interesting. So, what do you see as what's your? I asked you this question before. What's your take on how likely we are to shut down?
I say that we're more likely to shut down than we were to default last June.
Really?
Yeah, because you know what? There's less implications that happens when we do shut down. I mean, there are some because we do lose a lot of money a day because when things close, the national parks close. You know, anything national and federal closes, so they're not charging fees to come in. They're not charging entrances. IRS agents are not working their regular workload to audit things. So we can still lose a lot of money, but defaulting would be a lot more traumatic. So, and also we have had many government shutdowns since we've been allowed to do the government shutdown. So I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. It probably won't last as long as it's happened before in the past, like 35 days under President Trump. But I suspect it's going to happen because they're so far apart on where their agreements are. I mean, it's just like the strikes with the Writers Guild and the SAG Corps.
Mm-hmm. Now, we have a little bit of time left. What do you see happening with the election? So the Republican Party are fighting amongst themselves without Trump.
Yeah.
We have about 2 minutes left to go into that. What are your thoughts on that?
It's really up to the voters on what they understand, what is really going on. I really encourage a lot of people to try to dig in and understand what has been going on. What I worry about is the possible lies that some of the politicians may spew out because of things that happen. A few politicians may say that we're saving money by doing the government shutdown, but like my example before, you're actually losing more money because you're not collecting, you're not paying bills and things like that. So I really hope that once people understand more things that's been going on and not get tied into the lies that they may see on the news or the internet, what have you, hopefully we go down a much better route. There might be a few GOP people that might not be reelected because they were so close to losing. For example, I think it was Lauren Boebert won by only 500 votes. So who knows how many she may lose for the next one. It could be just 1,000.
Somebody actually said that shutting down the government saves money.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Yeah. But the thing is that, you know, the government pays bills. And if they don't pay the bills, just like a lot of people, you get charged interest.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And what people you could still charge the government penalty for not paying the bills. I wish they could do that if they skip a bill and skip paying me for a paycheck or two.
Wow. Then, so, what do you see happening with? What are your thoughts on Trump and his once again court troubles? There's many court troubles that he finds himself in.
I worry that the court cases that might be going through, that they might be delayed enough to actually go after the election. There might be one that would sneak right through, which I'm looking towards that it might be the D.C. one because the other courts or attorney generals are actually working in partnership to try to get the best one to go forward before the next election. And so I really hope for that happening. The other thing about with Trump and the 14th Amendment is that he could technically not see himself on the ballot because of his court case in D.C. Technically, you don't need a conviction of insurrection to not be put on the ballot. You just has to be, in theory, thought that you may have been doing insurrection. But some people might want to wait for the conviction. So that's pretty much the one for us to really watch.
We got in 10 seconds. I know Glenn's going to be upset, but in 10 seconds, can you tell me, do you think there was anything political about the timing of this whole thing? Yes or no answer?
100% political because they're trying to get whatever gains they have and show off their power. Matt Gaetz is trying to run for governor.
Yes. We're running out of time. This is Stephanie Kalota. Thank you for your time. This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.